If you've built a directory website, I'm going to walk you through what you need to do to SEO optimize it so that it will rank both faster and easier for you. I'm going to go through this video assuming that you don't really have much SEO knowledge. So for some of you who do have SEO knowledge, this may be more like a refresher course for you because I am going to try to keep this noob friendly. So let's go ahead and jump right in here. We're going to be covering the 3 types of SEO for a website. That's going to be your on-page SEO, your off-page SEO, and your technical SEO. And keep in mind that SEO is something that you're going to want to work on for your website, whether you're using WordPress, which is what I use, or if you're vibe coding it with one of the AI tools or using some other kind of platform, or tech stack to get your directory live on the web. If you've seen my niche validation video or any of my other videos where I touched on keywords, then you're already going to know, how I go about finding the keywords for my directory sites. If you haven't seen any of those videos, I do recommend that you go back and watch them because I'm not going to cover that again today. But whenever we're working on SEO optimizing our directory websites, we always want to keep in mind our target keywords. And it's not going to be just a single keyword, right? It's going to be, those secondary keywords as well. And we'll use today the example site that I've been building, the Bungee Fitness class site. And if you can recall, when I was doing my keyword research, Bungee Fitness class, Bungee Fitness exercise, things like that, they were the keywords that were coming up for me as my primary and secondary. You can see here on the website, just on the home page here, I've got a header here that's Bungee Fitness classes. Just Bungee Fitness near me. Down here we keep going. Bungee Fitness classes again. Bungee Fitness classes again right here. So basically I'm making sure that, as people, or not even people really, as Google is crawling this page to see what it is about, what they are doing is they are finding my most important keywords in basically the most important places. And those are going to be things like your headings, your title tags, meta description. What else do we have here? The alt tags for images, things like that. Let's see here. Bungee exercise classes was another one of the target keywords. Aerial Bungee Fitness class. It was more of a, not even really a secondary keyword, but it is something people look for. So I definitely wanted to make sure that I covered that here. Like I said, I'm hitting all of my keywords as many times as I can without, looking spammy here on my homepage. One thing I do want to mention here, and I may be jumping ahead of my own outline here, is I want you to make sure that your homepage title isn't simply home. This is a common mistake that people make, whether it's somebody running, a dentist website or a directory site. It's something that's so easy to overlook. Definitely check to make sure that your homepage title, like I said, is not home. This is one of your highest value places for your keywords. It's also important to make sure that you don't have the same title tag as you do H1 for the site. H1 is going to be your top level heading. Now I am using a free Chrome plugin, the Jackie Chow from Indexy has available. There are tons of plugins like this. I use these, for agency work and things like that, but they're also great at basically giving you a snapshot of what's going on with a page that you're looking at on a website. So you can see here that I have the title tag as local bungee exercise classes, and then I've got, essentially the title of my website afterwards. Now I've also taken the opportunity to basically fill my meta description with all these keywords that are my, primary and secondary keywords here. And then we'll click on the headings here. You can see the heading structure of this homepage. Some of the stuff, like the search Bungee Fitness classes near me and the filters thing, isn't really something that I could control because it was built into the directory plugin that I am using for this site. But most of these things are things that I could control. Most important thing here is make sure you never have more than one H1 on a page. Because this is, a hierarchy of things. And that being said, you can have multiple, H2s, H3s, etc., but you should never have more than one H1 on your page. So looking back at my outline here, most important places on each page of your website for your keywords: title tag, like I said, headers, meta description, alt tags. Those are going to be for your images that you upload, and your URL slug. That's obviously not really going to be relevant for our homepage, but it is going to be for other pages. So let's go ahead and just real quick look at one of the single pages that I have built here, which is the benefits of bungee fitness. On one of my videos, this was a keyword that I had discovered that I wasn't really sure if I was going to target, and then I decided, you know what, yeah, I will go ahead and target that. You can see here in the URL, this is what's called the slug, this end part here, bungee-fitness-benefits. This was the keyword I'm targeting, so it goes in the slug. We need a keyword-rich slug, like I said, targeting, you know, whatever the page itself is about. And then instead of repeating the bungee fitness benefits in the H1 here, I made it why try bungee fitness. I don't remember if I've already changed the title tag or not. I have not. Like I said, you can, you know, max things out here in terms of SEO and have a separate title tag. It's just not something that I have actually done. I will show you how to make those changes here in a moment. But, you know, I am using WordPress, so if you're using something else, I won't have instructions for that. So just something for you to keep in mind. I do have the benefits of bungee workout, which is another target keyword here in my H2. Again, you know, bungee fitness again here in H2. Basically, what we're looking for is that when Google is crawling your page and it sees these headings, and, you know, think of it kind of like an outline for the web page that kind of clues Google in, you know, as to what is this page about. That way it knows what to rank it for. So that's why it's so important that you're keeping these keywords, you know, in your headings, in your title tag, and things like that. I do want to take a moment here and jump on into the plugins here that I'm using within WordPress, because I do use an SEO plugin. I use the same SEO plugin on every website of mine that I have, and that is Rank Math. I use the free version. There is a pro version. For me, you know, and the sites that I work on and the sites that I run, I don't really see a need for me paying for the paid version of Rank Math. But, you know, that is maybe something that you want to look at to see if, you know, maybe it is something that you need. One of the things I do know that the paid version offers is that it has more advanced schema markup options. For my purposes, though, I never really need anything more than the basic that comes, you know, with the free version. So like I said, Rank Math is the plugin that I use. It's not the only one that's out there. Yoast is very popular. There's one called All-in-One SEO. There's tons of options. Go ahead, look at them, see what you're most comfortable using, and then just, you know, learn how to use it. They all work pretty much the same. Let's go back to this benefits page, and I will show you how to go ahead and give your page or your post a separate title from the H1. I'm just going to go ahead and edit this page. Okay, so from looking at this page in the WordPress dashboard, we can see that this little red, you know, block here does, if I click on this, it will bring up the Rank Math options. And that is just for this specific page. So I click on that, and the different things come up here. I can click on Edit Snippet right here. I can change the title here. I can change the permalink, which is the slug. I can also change the meta description. Now, for me, honestly, I'm usually pretty lazy and I don't optimize the meta description of every page of my sites. Usually I will do it on the home page, or if I have a really important page that I want to rank, I will. Most of the time, though, I don't really deal with it, like I said, because one, I'm lazy, but two, Google often rewrites meta descriptions. So that's just something for you to keep in mind as you're trying to think, like, do I want to spend time, you know, doing a custom meta description for every single page on this site? So, okay, I want to go ahead and give this page a different title tag than the H1. The H1 is Why Try Bungee Fitness, and that is what is currently the title. So here in Rank Math, I would just hover over this right here because that is what is giving it the current title. And let's see, I still want to target benefits, so I want to think of something that is keyword rich, right? So for this particular page, it would have the benefits of bungee fitness, but it also needs to be something that would drive clicks, right? So we're looking for something that would give us a high click-through rate. Now this is something that you can put into ChatGPT or whatever AI tool that you're using and get recommendations. It's also something that you can just kind of play around with, you know. After you've done it a while, you'll kind of get a feel for how to do it. You know, let's just do something like the amazing benefits of bungee fitness exercise. This way, you know, I get a few of my different keywords here, the variations as well as the benefits, which is what I'm really looking for. Then I don't think you have to save this. I think it automatically saves, yeah. So then I just click X. You can see it's changed right here, and then I would just click Save. Then we will go out and view it, and we can see the changes. So I still have the same H1, but if we look in this pre-Chrome extension I'm using, we now have a different title tag. Like I said, this is just one of the things that you can do with a plugin like Rank Math. It doesn't have to be Rank Math, but this is a way that you make changes like this. I think I can't recall, did I? Yeah, I've already changed the title tag here on the home page. You can see the meta description here. I'll go ahead and click into that so you can see it. So you can see down here where I just, typed it in. Like I said, you can play around with these, and see like how you feel about, what's coming up for you. Sometimes in the past, with sites of mine, I've made changes regularly just to see how it affects click-through rate. So if that's something you want to play around with, you can do that as well. But like I said, for most pages on most of my sites, I don't really deal with doing the meta description, just, simply because, like I said, I'm lazy and because Google will likely rewrite it. So another part of doing, the SEO optimization for your website, it's not just about keywords, right? Like we did already talk about, the alt tags for your images, making sure that you're putting, keywords in those. But your image size is also important. So you're going to want to optimize your images so that basically they're not huge, right? They're not going to load really slowly and give a really terrible user experience. Often I install an image compression plugin. I don't know if I have one on this particular website. It looks like the hosting that I am using has given me Speedy Cache and Speedy Cache Pro, which may take care of it for me. Let's find out if that is the case. So it looks like, they can lazy load images. Oh, here we go, image optimization. So it looks like they are optimizing images, although it's showing that they haven't really optimized any of them. So let's do automatic optimization because the WebP format here does usually load better. We'll do that. Don't think we need to rewrite the image URLs. The thing about compression quality is sometimes you can really tell that the images have been compressed and it looks really terrible. So depending on what niche you're in, you may want to have a higher compression quality just to kind of keep that quality of your images. I think for this particular niche, it doesn't really matter. I'm not even really trying to rank this. I'm just doing it as an example for you guys. But if I was trying to actually rank it and earn from it, I still would probably leave it at 70% here. See if there's anything else we need to do here. It looks like no. So I would go ahead and get this optimizing. I honestly should have set it up to optimize from the start. Usually when I am, starting a new website, what I like to use a lot is a plugin called Imagify. It's actually run by the people who do WP Rocket. I think I pay something like $5 a month for like an insane amount of images to be compressed. And it works really well. It does the whole thing of making them the WebP format and things like that. But yeah, the purpose of this is basically to reduce the size of the images on the page, which in turn makes it so that the page loads faster for people. That's something that, is not only good in terms for Google purposes, but it's good for users, right? So if you have somebody who has a slow internet connection, you don't want them to have a terrible user experience on your site because your images are just massive in size. So instead you do this, they'll be smaller and then they'll load faster for people. So while that is compressing, I do want to see if I can open the WordPress dashboard here in another tab, just in case you're not familiar with how do you do your image alt tags. Okay, so I'm looking at the media library here in the site. I'm just going to click on edit here on the most recent image that I've uploaded to see if I can actually see. So I had put in the alt text of Bungee Fitness handstand, which obviously is relevant to what this is. It also matches the file name. These are things that are both SEO optimized for keywords, right? The thing is though, you don't want to go too crazy, right? Like if I just had, say, if this image was just of the bungee cords, I wouldn't want to put in bungee fitness handstand, right? Because that would be basically spamming, right? Because that's not what the image is. And technically these image alt tags are designed for people who are having trouble, actually visually seeing what is on the page, and they have like one of those page readers that tells them what is on the page. So you need to really balance things like keyword optimizing your image alt text, as well as making sure that you are meeting, the needs of the people who can't actually, really see what's going on your website. But basically, whenever you are uploading a file, you have the opportunity to put in the image alt text here. Let's go ahead and see if we can get one going. So I've just found a YouTube thumbnail image here that's on my screen. I'll show you, basically I've uploaded it. Of course, it's a little different when you're uploading it, into the media library versus within a page or post. You can see here in the media library, there's the opportunity for, doing the alt text. Looks like apparently the Rank Math plugin actually has the option to do it with AI. I've never used that. Okay. We won't try that because I don't have a Rank Math account, so I'm not connected. So I'm going to go ahead and delete this image, and we'll actually go into a page or a post to show you how it looks different. Okay, let's say I have a new page here and I'm uploading an image. We'll upload that same thumbnail again. So it's loading, and then you have your alt text box right here, where we could type in whatever we wanted. That is relevant for what the image is actually showing. Again, great place to drop your keywords while keeping in mind that the actual purpose of the image alt text, like I said, is for people who basically are visually impaired. I'm just going to delete that so that it's not cluttering up my database. So you've already seen that I have a caching plugin actually installed on this site. Like I said, I'm not paying for that. It came with the host that I'm using for this particular site. You can use free options though. There's really no sense in paying when there are great free options out there. You've got things like W3 Total Cache. Let's see what other caching plugins we can find, because I know there's a lot of great ones that I have personally used in the past. Things like Auto Optimize, things like that. So Lightspeed Cache, you can only use that one if you are using hosting that has a Lightspeed server. Like I said, I've used W3 Total Cache, I've used WP Fastest Cache, WP Optimize, Super Page Cache, I've used all of those. WP Super Cache, I've used that one as well. Breeze plugin, I've used that in the past when I've been hosting on Cloudways. And there's Speedy Cache, you can use it for free, looks like the base version. And there's Auto Optimizer, which I've used as well. Any of these should work fine. One thing though to keep in mind when you install a caching plugin is that sometimes, when you're minimizing things and stuff like that within the plugin, it can break parts of your theme. So make sure you actually test what the site looks like after you install this and optimize it and stuff to make sure you haven't broken anything. Definitely recommend you do that just in case, you break it and don't realize it for a while later. You'll also probably want to take advantage of free Cloudflare caching. That'll speed up your site as well. Like I said, you don't have to pay for Cloudflare. You can use just the free plan. I do use that on most of my sites. And of course, just having a really good web host that's not, super slow. I think for most people, Hostinger is going to be the best option. I use them for some of my sites. They're pretty cheap, pretty fast loading as well. The hosting that I'm actually using for the Bungee Fitness site is Big Scoots. It's a little more expensive, so probably more than most of you actually need. But it is a good host as well. You're going to want to stay away from the really cheap, terrible hosts. It's going to be things like HostGator, Bluehost, things like that. Definitely do not go with them. GoDaddy, very slow. Like I said, for the money, I think that hosting here is probably the best deal out there right now for most people. We already discussed schema markup. Like I said, I'm just using Rank Math free SEO plugin to take care of schema markup for me. We can actually look at what they have available here. Honestly, I never actually change anything that they do. I just kind of leave it the way that they have it. Just the defaults. So, you can see they've got, schema for posts, pages, and everything like that. When you install the plugin, you're asked if you're for an organization or a small business or whatever, and that kind of, tells the plugin how to do the schema for your site. Like I said, I don't ever really make any changes. I just kind of leave it as it is, and I feel like that bare minimum is enough for me and my sites. Another thing I definitely want to touch on here in terms of SEO optimization is the site architecture. Because it's very important that you are not wasting the crawl budget that Google has allotted for your website, because you want it to be able to regularly crawl your site, find updates, find new posts, new pages, and things like that, so that they get indexed and you start getting traffic and rankings for them. And when I'm talking about site architecture, basically what I'm talking about is how you have your site structured in terms of, how do I get to the pages on your website? How do I get to the listings? How many clicks deep do I have to go in order to find something? The best practice is to have any page on your website accessible within 3 clicks. So you never have to go more than 3 clicks deep to find something. So let's just say, I want to click on this studio here that I've clicked, right? So that's 1 click deep. But what if I want to go back and I want to search? Let's say I want to search by category, Aerial Sports Center. So I search listings. So now I'm 1 click in, right? Here's one that I want. So now I'm 2 clicks in. So, basically as you're designing, your navigation bar and how you're laying out your site, that entire architecture, keep in mind that you need to keep it where nothing is more than clicks deep. Like I said, this will maximize the crawl budget for your sites, which will help you, get indexed, stay indexed, and whenever you have new, pages or updates to pages, that Google can actually find them and, make sure that those changes kind of flow through to the search results. As you're building your site, you're also going to want to make sure that you're doing internal linking. And this is basically going to be linking from, one page on your site to another page on your site. This is something that should only be done when it's relevant, right? You don't want to do it for no good reason, right? Because the link juice flows through those internal links as well as when you're getting backlinks. So you want to make sure that you're optimizing how you're linking and what you're linking to. I noticed that it looked like I'd already done some internal linking on one of these. I think it was this page. I don't remember what I did. So I was just linking to the homepage. So Bungee Fitness was the keyword I'm targeting. So I've done an internal link from the Bungee Fitness benefits page to the homepage. So that's a good example of the type of, good internal linking process of what you'd want to do. Basically, I find if you're only having listings as your primary content on your site, your internal linking for the most part is going to be done automatically by whatever directory plugin that you're using. So it's really only going to be if you're adding additional pages or posts to your sites that you're going to actually need to be doing this. It's also going to be things like, here on the home page where I have linked to my listing page of all the listings with the anchor text. And obviously that would also be the internal linking anchor text, find Bungee Fitness near me. And then it looks like I have put why try it linking to the benefits page. So these are examples of how you can use internal linking basically to make it easy for both Google to know what your site is about, by what you're linking to, as well as making it easy for Google and users to find the content on your site. You'll also want to make sure that you have a working sitemap on your site. This is something that Google will use you can actually submit it to Google Search Console, basically so that they can see when you have new content on your site and when there's been updates to the content that is existing on your site. Again, for me, the Rank Math SEO plugin takes care of this. They do have a sitemap setting here, and it gives you the URL for the sitemap. Now, I will warn you that every so often, when this plugin creates a sitemap, there ends up being an error. Usually when this happens, all you have to do is change the number of links per sitemap and save it. 100% of the time that will fix the problem. You may not even have this problem, but I wanted to kind of warn you about it because, like I said, every so often it does happen to me. You can just click on the link here to see what your sitemap looks like to know if it is working. We can see that mine is working just fine. If it was not, like I said, I would just go into the settings there and change the number of URLs, you know, per sitemap. And then go down here to the bottom and save changes. Okay, so if you've done all of this and things still aren't quite going right with your website, there are 2 more things that are, you know, basically considered SEO optimizing that we can do. The first is to make sure that you have your site in Google Search Console, because if Google notices any errors on the site, that is where you're going to be notified of it. I already have this site in one of my Google Search Console accounts. Typically where you are going to see problems is going to be under indexing. So I'm just going to click over here on pages under indexing. And if we scroll on down here, we're looking at why pages aren't indexed. So, you know, we've got a whole host of issues here. Now the thing with Google Search Console is often once it finds a problem, it will still stay down here even once it gets fixed. And I'll show you what I mean by that here in a moment. So let's see here, we have excluded by no index tag. Obviously, things like the privacy policy I have set to no index on purpose, but we do have some, you know, listings here that are showing up from September 30th as that I have them set as no index. Well, that's because at the time I had the entire site set to no index and Google shouldn't have been looking at my site, but as it inevitably does, it did. So that means that this is an old error. But how do we know if Google has actually recrawled this page? Well, we don't, but we can look at it and find out. So let's click on it and click Inspect URL. So it says it's still not indexed, right? So what can we do here? Simple, we just click Request Indexing. Now this doesn't mean that Google is definitely going to index the page today or anything like that. It just means it kind of goes in their queue of sites to look at to see if they want to index it. One thing to know about this, Google only allows you to request indexing, I think it is 10 times a day within a single Search Console account. So for instance, I have multiple sites in this Search Console account. If I do this 10 times today for just the Bungee Fitness site, I can't do it, I don't think, for any of my other sites. At least that's the way it used to be. I haven't checked it in a while, but regardless, you're maxed out at 10 times for your site within the Google Search Console. So something to keep in mind as you are basically, you know, working through Search Console looking for errors. Obviously, so your biggest errors are going to be 404 errors, block for other issues, things like that. These are often false positives though. Okay, so for 404 errors, I've already looked through this before I started recording, since it's over 1,000 pages it says that are affected. But these aren't actual URLs. You'll notice that they all have feed at the bottom, at the end here. These are all basically the RSS versions of the listings on the site. So it doesn't really matter that Google is having problems indexing these because they're not real pages. And this is what I'm talking about when I say there's kind of false positives a lot. So that's not something that I need to worry about. Unfortunately, there's no real way for me to remove this from here. So I just have to kind of remember, you know, that's nothing for me to worry about. Let's see here, blocked for other issues. Again, this isn't like a real page on the site. Nothing for me to worry about. One thing I do like to do with my sites is when I see crawled and currently not indexed, as well as discovered but currently not indexed, is do what we did a moment ago. Let's inspect this URL, see if it's actually been indexed. This one has, URL is on Google. So we'll go back, check the next one. Basically, I like to max out my 10 submissions a day to make sure my pages are getting indexed. And this is a very easy way to take care of that. So it looks like these are actually all indexed. Let's go to the discovered but currently not indexed option. see. So like this one is not indexed. So we're just going to click request indexing on this one. And again, like I said, this doesn't guarantee that the page will get indexed, but it does mean Google will look at it again to consider indexing it. So that's why this is something that I always like to look at on my sites, basically to see, is there any page that I need to resubmit for indexing to try to get indexed. And so that just leaves backlinks. I think I've recorded so far 2 other videos on doing backlinks for your directory site. If you have not seen those, go ahead and do watch those. They are in my playlist of directory site videos. Some things to keep in mind though is niche relevance is often more powerful than domain authority. So for instance, if you have the option of getting, say, let's use my Bungee Fitness site. Let's say I have a Bungee Fitness, franchise or facility or whatever that wants to link out to my website. And let's say that they have a domain authority or a domain rating of 12. But at the same time, I could get, some random general blog that has a domain authority of 32 to link to me. Which one of those would I go for? Every day of the week, I would go for that niche relevant one from the Bungee Fitness because it is going to be more powerful. It doesn't matter that the domain authority or the domain rating is lower because Google prefers that niche relevance over that authority score. Now, if both of those, example options were fitness related, then I would probably go for the higher authority one. I mean, of course, I'd go for both, right? Like, let's be honest. But if I could only get one, I would go for higher authority if the niche relevance was the same. Now, this doesn't mean that you shouldn't prioritize building, high authority backlinks. But I do want you to keep in mind that the niche relevance is often more powerful than just plain authority. So that's something to keep in mind. Like I said, I do have some other videos on backlinks that I think will give you basically a great foundation for doing the backlinking for your website. So do feel free to check those out. And just popping back over here to the image optimization, you can see this is a very slow process because it is still going. That's why I honestly should have set this up from the beginning. Normally I do on my website so that I don't have to do this, kind of wait, for things to get optimized. But so basically, if you've not installed something like this on your site, go ahead, do it now, get it started so it can go through all of your old images and optimize them. And make sure you use the settings so that any new images that get uploaded are automatically optimized for you. So yeah, I think that's all I have today for you in terms of the best practices in terms of SEO optimizing your website. Like I said, I've already gone through my site for the most part to do, my various optimizations and things like that. I did have someone ask me about the logo on the site, which that doesn't really have anything to do with SEO optimization. But I honestly just used ChatGPT to make this logo. So I just wanted to mention that in case you are wondering. But if you have any questions, on doing the SEO optimization, for your directory site or anything like that, go ahead and drop those questions in the comments below, and I will get you an answer as soon as I can. Thanks for watching.